business like that, what happens is like you really have to take care of your sales guys because that's the entire business, right?
So it's not like crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how much do you have to play to lose 50 grand?
If you don't take care of them and they're like, screw this, I'm out, like then there goes your business. Poof.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the FIP Printing Pros podcast. I am your host, Josh Dynison, along with my co-host, Chris Lockwood. And today we have Andres Abad with us. He is the owner of Media Minds, who is the one that has put on this entire setup for us to be able to do the podcast. And he also does digital marketing and many other things within that business. And also has it is Abad Capital Enterprises. Or sorry, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
First of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's my parent company. It basically houses all of my businesses and ventures.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so he's been an entrepreneur for how many years?
It's been just under 15 years, I would say. I started my first business at 18.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So been in the business for 15 years. Is honestly, he's been helping us with the growth of our business right now with everything he's doing. And we've been trying to, he just in general, you know, you like to help people and it's appreciate it for the community and especially for us in our company. But to start this off, I guess why don't you tell us a little bit about how you started off in your journey, I guess, in
business?
You could go a little bit because I think it ties in a little bit from a little bit. Obviously, I know you a little bit more than just a general person coming on here. But how did you start before you got into entrepreneurship?
So, I'll try to make it quick. I'm originally from Ecuador, right? So I was born and raised in Ecuador. And for those of you who don't know, it's a small country in South America. And then I graduated about 16. So I turned 17 and moved to the States for college, right? That's how it kind of all started. Moved to New York. Took a year off, decided that I was like a really crazy kid. So all throughout high school, I did all kind of crazy things. And so when I moved to the States, I was like, all right, it's like I burnt myself out or being like a dumb kid, right? And I was like, I want to be productive. So really early in life, I was like, okay, I want to be productive. So I decided to work for a full year before going to college, right? Which debatably could have been like a good or bad decision, who knows? But I started working basically way more than full time. Started working in a power washing company with my uncle, right? Okay. And then what that taught me, it was like, you know, hard work. Like before that, I've never like really had a physical labor job. You know, I grew up in Ecuador, like just like middle income family. We weren't rich, but you know, we had everything we needed. Like I never really had to work, never had a job. Over there is not as common where like, you know, high school kids go and get like jobs. They're just like you go to high school, you come home, you do your stuff, and you go hang out with your friends. Yeah. So did that for about a year, and then started college. Was working really, really hard, like working 6 days a week, and kind of like the thing flipped, right? So like I was tired of like not being productive. Then I went there and started working 6-7 days a week, sometimes 10-12 hours a day, and got burned out of working so hard. I was 17, but I was saving money, so I was like, yeah, this works, but you can only do something for so long, for so much that you are not passionate about, until you eventually burn yourself out.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what happened. And then I started doing college, working a little bit less with him. Actually got like a part-time job at FedEx also. And it was good, but I just knew that it's not what I liked, right? Like those vehicles weren't getting me to where I wanted to get. So then eventually I said like, okay, I've had it with this. I'm going to go find something else. And I found a sales job. And that's kind of like where everything started, right? Like I working with my uncle, it was hard work. There was definitely a path there to like, I guess, earn my stripes by working really, really hard and putting in my time and paying my dues. And then eventually like maybe, like take over a higher position or whatever. It just wasn't happening as fast as I wanted.
Yeah.
And obviously I was very like young. So
young and eager.
Yeah. So working with him, I was making like, this is what, like 2008, I was making like $10,000 an hour. And I was working a lot, so, still not making good money. But for a 17-year-old kid, I was like, it's all right. I pay my bills, I'm independent, all that stuff. Well, I go into this sales job, and the first week I get out of training. In order to get out of training, these were like direct sales, right? We worked for a company that would sell audio, video, and surveillance equipment. And so the first week I got out of training, normally they said that people go into training between 2 and 3 weeks. That's how long it takes them to do 2 sales by themselves without any help.
Yep.
I got out of training the first week. I think it was I started on a Tuesday. When Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I made my first sale. Friday I made my second sale, and I made $1,200.
Wow.
And I was hooked for life. I was like, this is so easy. I'm gonna do this every day. I'm gonna make a lot of money. And that's kind of like where it all started, man. Like basically, I worked for them for about 8 months. Then I realized the entire business model. I pride myself to be like a loyal person. So like I would have stayed there probably, even though like I saw the entire business and how easy it was to make money. But they made a contest as to like who they were gonna promote next. I completely crushed it. Like it wasn't even close. And they ended up promoting another person because they were like buddy with one of the managers. And so after that, I was like, I'm done. I left, started my own business doing exactly the same thing. Basically, like I copied their business model.
So was this like door-to-door sales? Was it phone calls? What kind of sales was it?
Yeah, it was door-to-door. It was all like, it was pretty much like, hey, here's the equipment. You figured out how you can get rid of these things. And like...
Yeah, what was that movie? Pursuit of Happiness, where he had the machine or whatever,
Yeah, very, very similar. It was like a crazy business model, and they were like really good at like hyping you up and like, doing what like you're supposed to do in sales, I guess, is just like motivating the people. Like they'll have like a bonus system where it's like you sell, it was all like commission. Like, they wouldn't pay you a dime out of the company. Everything was 100% commission. Which, like they went through a lot of different people because not everybody has it in them. Like, especially when, it worked for me because I was young. I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. So, when you're that young, it doesn't matter. Like, if you don't make money, like,
not a big
if
deal.
you have a place to live and you have, a plate of food, that's all you need. And also, like, I turned out to be kind of like decent at it. So I was doing really good most weeks. That's where it started. I left after like 8 months. I started my own business, doing exactly that. Did that for about like 4 or 5 years. Got burned out because realized that like all the things that they basically like brainwashed me into believing weren't really true. Like the equipment wasn't really all that great. I was selling things that like I truly didn't like believe in. Yeah. Right? And it was just like, well, basically everything that they taught me like served me to an extent and served me in the sense of like it really got me out of my shell. It really basically like trained me into like being able to just sell anything to just about anybody. But once you start getting older, you start seeing things in a different way. Like it wasn't fulfilling. I wasn't happy with like the fact that I was making a bunch of money, but I wasn't providing any real value for anybody.
So was the next step when you got into business after that, or did you go into something else?
So after that, I didn't really have like a clear direction as to where to go, right? I think I was like 24, 25. I actually was already here in Florida, so I moved from New York down here in Florida for some personal reasons, so I'd be with my sister and my nephew. And then I kind of like gave that up because, again, it wasn't doing it for me anymore. And I actually became a poker dealer. Because I knew the industry. So there's another thing that happened on the span of those 4 or 5 years. I would go in, I will open up the office, I will hype them up, do my sales meetings, send them out there to work. And then because I didn't like it anymore, I would go and play poker. Because poker was like a huge passion of mine. Yeah. So what I did basically is like I spent like a year and a half playing poker pretty much full time while running this business. And I started with like $10,000. and ran it up to like close to 200K. I think it was like 230K, somewhere around there. And then I went on like a massive losing streak where I lost like 50,000 of it in like a month. And I was playing smaller stakes. So it was like really hard to lose 50,000 of those stakes.
So what was the initial buy-in on most of those?
You start with like the max buy-in back then in 1-2 was $200 and 2-5 was $800 back then.
So it's not like crazy investment.
Yeah,
So,
but how much do you have to play to lose 50 grand?
I was basically like losing like 2K a day.
Oh, wow.
And it's really hard. You know, poker, here's the thing. Like, this is why I love it so much. I believe that it's like competition to the fullest, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a brain surgeon, whether you're a plumber, whether you're whoever you are. Like, you sit on that table, everyone is equal, and like you have to develop certain skills to be able to play the game at the highest levels, right?
Yeah.
People think it's just gambling. It's not like you're playing against the casino, you're playing against other people. So you have to, like, there's a lot of math behind it, a lot of percentages, pattern recognition. You have to be able to exploit people's tendencies. Like, people that play at the highest levels know even if you had like a personal problem or you were broken up with your girlfriend and you're going to be more emotional and it's going to make you react a certain way. It'll make you tilt tough. Tilt for us is like start making like the wrong choices because you're like aggravated, right? And so, so I was able to, do really well until I lost a lot, like very quickly, and I was still very young. So like I kind of got spooked and I was like, that's it. I'm like stopping this, and I went and invested all that money. And I was like, I basically made myself broke again. I was like, I put all of that into a house, which at the time is like the only thing that I knew. I was like, okay, that's I guess I'm invested into this, and that's it. So I just bought a house, cash, and that was, kind of like where I left it at. And it was shortly after that I got really like, didn't want to do the business anymore. So what I did was I took a break from that and I became a dealer for a year.
So did you shut that business down? Did you sell it?
Yeah, I sold it. I technically, it was kind of like in the middle between shutting it down and selling it. I was going to just shut it down, and there were a couple of people that did the same thing. They were in other states where like we ended up doing a deal where I sold it like very like under market basically, and then but retain a percentage of equity. And then what happened was like they just like really ran it to the ground, and like very quickly like everybody left.
Yeah.
So like in that business, when it's like a business like that, what happens is like you really have to take care of your sales guys because that's the entire business, right?
Yeah.
And so like if you don't take care of them and they're like screw this, I'm out, like then there goes your business, ploof.
Yeah.
And so like these guys weren't very good at maintaining them happy and keeping them motivated and stuff like that. The sales industry has this thing where it's like running a daycare, I would say. Like you have to motivate, you have to save them from themselves. You have to kind of like babysit in certain ways. Even if they're like all grown and great and stuff, like we always should have someone that is looking after us to try to save us from ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Because we always have those tendencies of those things that are not necessarily great for us, but we do them anyway, right? And I feel like a great sales manager has that down packed. With like he knows you personally, he knows what to deter you from, what to pull you away from, and all that stuff, even if it's in your personal life.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people think that most salespeople are motivated by money. And in my experience, yes, the money in sales is good.
Yeah.
But that's not what necessarily motivates people. It could be the competition. It could be just that, like what you were missing in the first job was feeling like you were making a difference for people. You know, so you're right. A good sales manager can hone in on what it is that drives those. Each and every salesperson is going to be different. So.
Yeah.
Right. And so like if you're able to kind of like zoom in on that and see like what makes everyone tick. Right, because you're gonna have your guys that are just like very driven by the money, right? And you're gonna have your guys that are super competitive, and all they want to be is like be the best at the company or be number one, and then could give three shits about the money. And then you're gonna have your guys that just want a team that want to feel like they're part of something, like which we all do to at a deeper level. Like I've always been the one who's like, nah, I don't really care. I just like straightforward what I want to do, and that's the end of it. But at the end of the day, we are a social species. Like we want to feel like we're part of something, right? And being part of a sales team, I think that is huge. Like having them do like team meetings outside of the office where like you bond with the person. Simon Sinek talks about this stuff. He talks about how much greater corporate America would be if we had training like the military, because in the military you are trained to say like you're not here for yourself, you're here for the next guy. Right? And so if that was more instilled on business, it would go a heck of a lot better.
But it comes back to the leadership training we talked about before and all that. It lacks I think in the corporate world, in the big corporate world, they have leadership training for their upper manager and C-level and all that kind of stuff. But if your whole company is based on sales, there's one here in town, I won't name them, but I go there. And it's this room about the size of this stage. And it's like 4 people on this side, 4 people on this side. Their manager sits there, and it's just this little call center. And I'm like, what? I'm thinking to myself, what kind? Probably know what I'm talking about. What kind of leadership training does that person have? Who all she does is sit there and make sure that they're making the calls that they're supposed to make. And how much more successful could they be if there was that leadership training in there? There was the difference between building a team and team building and those kind of things that happen. And I think I know the reason it's so prevalent in the military is because it's literally life or death. Yeah. Doesn't have to be that serious out here. Yeah. But in some cases, it's livelihood versus not. Yeah. So.
That's the thing, and like I think it's the contrary. I think it should be that serious, right? It's because like, for example, a lot of small businesses, like the founder, like he's like gambling pretty much everything. Like you're like you have to give it your all. It's like if this does not work, like you might have to go back to the shitty job, or you might have to like move to like back to like a 1-bedroom apartment, whatever. Yeah. But it's like it might not be necessarily like life or death, like literally, but you have to treat it as if.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and we've talked about this a couple times. The hard part is getting the same buy-in from your employees, because ultimately, they're not going to care as much as the business owner. Now they still may care and want the business to be successful, but ultimately, they're like he's pointed out, like they're not going to sacrifice not paying themselves like I have, or whatever. And
some of them will.
You think?
I don't want to interrupt you, Coach.
No, I mean,
So here's the thing. I went through this a bunch because, like, throughout my 20s, I would say throughout, like, up until now, I was just talking about that with Danny. It's like I probably hired about, it's not like a huge number, but it's between, like, I would say 60 to 80 people between, like, the businesses that I've had. And I'm talking about, like, personally one-on-one hired. And what I realized is like the ones that are still with me today are the ones that I didn't even ask what was the specific set of skills that they had. It was like the ones that I told them my vision and what was the dream that I was going after, but with this company. Yeah. And when it resonated with them and it was something that they got also very excited about, you like made it very easy for them to like, they don't necessarily have to just follow me. They're just like rallying behind me to help me get to that dream, because it's just something that they also, it resonates with them also, and that they can, get behind.
That's true.
So I remember one of my business, we went through a stage where we were very close to shutting our doors, and we had quite a few employees that were like, we'll work for free until like, we'll bring it up. And it was because of that. And obviously not everybody's going to be able to do that. But like, man, if there's a will, there's a way. Like they went, one of them went and like got a part-time job at night to be able to, survive. But yeah, for like a good 4 or 5 months, it wasn't like a super long period, for a good 4 or 5 months, they worked for free.
Wow.
And then they're still with me now. They're compensated handsomely because, but yeah.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, yeah, you have to find the right people that can be in the right situation to be able to do that. 'Cause,
Correct.
I mean, I can't remember the percentages, but I want to say it's like almost, so like 85 to 90% of people live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe it's not that high.
I bet it's higher than that.
Is it high? I
know
know
it's 95 to 99% live paycheck to paycheck.
something like that, but so, because I think I have people that would be willing to take that ride and that sacrifice of not being paid if they could.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the ability to do that is the other hard part,
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome that you had employees though that were willing to do that for you.
And yeah,
It
and
also shows your leadership though, and how you made them feel.
that's the thing, like to me, throughout all this journey, right? We go through as founders, as CEOs, as like the owner of the small business. You have to learn so many things, and leadership is one of the key things that you have to learn, right? Because now you have a bunch of people in your charge, like you're responsible for those people. Because that's the way I look at it. Like to me, being a leader doesn't necessarily mean like knowing it all and like knowing exactly like how to lead people from point A to point B. It just means like, hey, like I'm gonna care about them more than I care about myself, and I'm gonna make sure that we just continue going forward. Like, the fastest way from point A to point B is a straight line, right? But business is never that. Like it's always like this.
Yep.
And so like if you are judged based on how straight your line is as a leader, we will all be shitty leaders, right?
Yeah.
Like, or at least like 99.9% of us. Like there might be like the one guy that did this exactly what we're supposed to do. Like
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think like if you look at like the great leaders of the world, like I would say, Martin Luther King, like Gandhi, a lot of these people, like they just had a dream, they had a vision that resonated with a lot of people, which created a lot of people rallying behind them to, make that difference.
Yep.
And so like I think at the end of the day, like for business to completely like be super successful and make a difference, like you have to have that one thing. Like you have to have that one idea, because money just in itself, like it's great, but like if that's it, then I don't think like it's strong enough. Why? I don't think like you see a lot of people that get like real successful, really rich, and then boom, all of a sudden they kill themselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like why? Like you had everything you wanted, or you thought you wanted, and then what?
Because ultimately they weren't fully happy.
Yeah.
I mean, the money they thought would make them happy, and that's not really what life is about. I mean, don't get me wrong, money can make life easier.
Yeah.
But I think if that's all people are focused on, and they're just getting to that, when they get to that point, what do they do for the rest of their life to make them happy? Like, and then now they have the money, but where's the happiness? Then I think that's where a lot of people get to that point. And
I think it's like money has to be treated as a tool, right? And it just depends how big your dreams are. And there's like a very key difference between being very ambitious and being greedy, right? So like for example, me, I'm a very ambitious person, but I don't think I have a lot of greed in me because my dreams and my goals involve a lot of other people and involve like making other people feel what I felt when I kind of got like my big break, quote unquote, right? Like, because I feel like everybody should be able to like live in abundance. Everybody should be able to not have to worry about when's next, paycheck or when rent's due. Like, I think when you only have so much brain capacity, right? And then if part of that is being utilized on worrying about all these things, that is like basically how to survive. It takes away from like being able to focus on like thriving.
yeah.
Right. And so for me, basically what it turned out to is like after like I went through all that process, and after I worked at the poker room because I enjoyed poker and I thought that I would enjoy the industry, and for a job for me I was kind of like in a tricky spot, right? Because I didn't finish college. I don't think we went through that, but like I went to college. I also had a scholarship for soccer, but that kind of went away. I busted my knee. And then I just basically dropped out of college to pursue the entrepreneurial path and open up my first business. And so you fast forward 6 years later, and here I am. I'm like 25, I think 26. I'm tired of this business that's all I knew for like the better part of my 20s, and I have to go find a job. I was good at sales, so I could have found a sales job, but because in my mind all I did was selling things that I didn't necessarily like believed in, now I thought that all sales jobs were going to be like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I went, and the first thing that I knew was like, okay, I like poker. It's a good environment. You can make, I don't know, $30 to $50 an hour. It's a decent job. I can survive on that. So I figured out. I went and did that for a year. And then after that, like, is when I made myself, like, do a few dumb things, I think, self-sabotage and get out of that job, because I felt in my bones that I was getting too comfortable, and I was getting used to, like, the, I won't say 9 to 5 because it was, like, weird schedules, but I was just getting used to clock in, clock out, come home, clock in, clock out.
Yeah.
And that petrified me, because I just knew that I was born to be a business owner and to, you know, like, I'm thinking that I'm unemployable. Like, it was...
Yeah.
So I basically self-sabotaged to, like, end that job. And then after that, I, like, really went on to what now turned out to be, like, one of my main jobs, like the affiliate marketing for the gambling industry. And then while doing that, I needed marketing help. And I went through so many different, like, agencies, freelancers, different people. And so, like, I ended up building my own team little by little. I hired a video editor first, then a social media manager, then a project manager, then, graphic designer. And, like, to make long story short, that process started, like, probably 5 years ago. Now we have a team of, like, 17 people altogether. And it kind of morphed into, instead of just being my in-house marketing team, like, people were seeing the success that we were having in our company. And a lot of my friends, a lot of my close friends are entrepreneurs. They all have businesses. So they were like, hey, how about you do that for us? And we're like, okay. And then started, basically opening a full stack marketing agency. And now literally, like, my goal is to partner up with the right businesses to help them get that feeling of, like, okay, I made it, right? Because that's the feeling that I got when I finally broke through, like, the financial constraints and, like, grew the main company to, multiple 8 figures and in revenue, not profits. I wish, but I'm still on that journey myself. I'm a work in progress. Like, I figured out how to, like, get a 7-figure income from, like, literally a bag of quotas. Like, at my worst time, I had a bag of quotas left. I had just gotten together with, who's not my wife, Jen, and we were both in a really shitty spot. And I think, like, the biggest why, I don't want to be so long-winded, but I'll say this quick story. I knew how to make money going in throughout my 20s because I mastered the sales skill. Maybe not, like, fully mastered, but at least I was decent at it, so I knew how to make money. It came easy to me. I never really had a super strong why. And so always, like, either dusted off the money doing dumb stuff, or did all the partying, all the kid stuff to do. Right?
Yeah.
And then when I didn't have it anymore, because for whatever reason I didn't want to do sales anymore, or whatever happened, and I had to figure something else out. I had just gotten together with Jen, and seeing how, like, stressed out she was, because she was also in a bad financial position when we got together. Seeing, like, all the despair, all the suffering, all the stuff, made me say, like, okay, 6 months from now, we're going to be completely maybe, like, not completely financially free, but we're going to be out of debt. We're going to, have a little bit more choices. And then I started working really hard, like 14-hour days, 16-hour days, 6-7 days a week. Didn't even have a car. Sold my car. Didn't go anywhere for, like, 8 months. Anyway, long story short, like, at one point, realized that we're doing good financially anymore. Didn't even know about it. Like, didn't know how much money we're making because I was so focused on, like, working so hard. And one day I went through the finances. I was like, wow, like we are doing good, great, you know.
Yeah.
But it was like the why, right? It was
Yeah.
like the motivation behind, like, okay, why am I like going full on psycho and making this work? It wasn't just like, oh, I want the money because I want the nice car type
Yeah.
thing, you know. So yeah, that's where we're at. After that, like media minds happened where like we built out the marketing team for our business. We started offering it here, and then we had our little baby. So now we decided that Ocala is gonna be home, because we were like on a very back and forth. Throughout this whole process, mind you, I acquired different businesses. We bought a poker room in Texas. We're traveling a lot, going back and forth everywhere. So we weren't really sure like we were gonna live here, or like any point. Like my main business is digital, so like I can move to China tomorrow and still function.
Yeah.
But when we had the baby, we decided Ocala was gonna be home, and that's when I decided to buy the offices here, open up brick and mortar office, and start focusing more on the local community.
Well, when you had your daughter, that was just another add to your why, to what you're doing as well. I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I have a son, but
sorry, I apologize.
Yes, yeah, but no, we do have two girls that are like older, they're already out of the house, already in college. Yeah. So whenever I say that to people, they're like, "Oh, wow, you look like really young." And I'm like, "No, one's 24 and the other one's like 19." But they were Jen's daughters when we got together. They were a little bit younger. But yeah, they're out of the house now, and they're doing their own thing. So we are starting the journey again with the 2-year-old now. It's like starting all over. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
So what are your main? You got Media Minds. What are the main business entities that you have now that you're running?
So like RGS Tutorials is a coaching company, and basically is what we use as an umbrella for like the different type of coachings for the gambling industry that we offer. And then we basically, it's like what we do is like we're affiliate marketing for poker players. And so we have deal with operators where like we send them players or people that go on their sites. And it works just like any other affiliate marketing. You make a percentage of whatever they generate. And that's one of our biggest business. But after that, I do a little bit of real estate investing with Joe, but that's not like super something. Like we do a few deals here and there. Media Mind is one of the things that I want to like put most of my focus in now, because it's the one that kind of like resonates with like my goal of helping other people get to that feeling of like, shit, I made it. Like,
Yeah.
So that's like the best way, basically. It's like, what other way can you really help business owners? Maybe like some coaching, but like there's still some, for me, being able to go from 0 or from having a bag of quotas to generating like a 7-figure income for myself and my family is like a huge milestone right now. And I'm very ambitious, so I want to figure out how to turn that and 10x that.
Yeah.
I'm still in that process, right?
Yeah.
So like I feel like maybe like I could turn into some kind of coaching for people who want to learn how to do that part, because that part I know. The next part I'm still learning. So like, there is like a little bit of a what's the word? Imposter syndrome type thing.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because it's like, I don't want to.
Yeah, it's funny. I do coaching too, but I interviewed this guy a few years ago, and he said something that was really profound. He said, your mindset is something you're always working on. He said, the mindset you have to adopt to make your first million will prevent you from getting to 10 million. The mindset that you adopt to get to 10 million will prevent you from getting to 100 million. And the mindset that you have to adopt to get to 100 million will prevent you from getting to $1 billion. He said, now what's the difference between 100,000, 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, $1 billion? This is just 10x. He said, but the mindset, no matter where you're at, it's constant. It's never, he said, you're always going to have imposter syndrome. And I heard somebody talking about this the other day. He knows this guy, he said it just baffles his mind. He knows this guy's worth like $2 or $3 billion, but the people he hangs out with now are worth 20, 30, 40 billion. And the 2 or 3 billion dollars feels poor in a room full of 30, 40 billion dollar people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would love to be the poor guy
Yeah.
in a billionaire's room, right? But you're right. It's all about mindset. It's all about you getting to that point. So it's like you're at the point now where you can help people go from, 5 figures, 6 figures to 7 figures, but then you have to find that person to get you from 7 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that person has to find that person, from 8 to 9.
Yeah.
And so that's awesome to recognize that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, like, 'cause especially nowadays, there's like, I feel like there's so much information out there that is a blessing and a curse, because like there's a lot of people that are like very hungry for that information, and because there's so much out there, like some of it it's really good, some of it doesn't apply to you, some of it like it's really good, but like you don't need it right now, and it's very hard to differentiate that. And because a lot of these people just are really want to sell you their courses, their information, their whatever, like you end up getting the wrong info, then it doesn't work, and then you give up, and then you kind of like, end up being like, okay, I'm done, this didn't work for me, and go back and don't fulfill your dream.
Well, and that's one of the big things now, especially like in what you do, digital marketing. There's a lot of pretenders or people that think they know what they're doing, and I've already been down that road, unfortunately, and then wasted and basically just burnt my money because it just wasn't worth. Everybody they think they learn something online and then just they're an expert, but knowing and doing is a whole different ball game. Yeah. Or they're just scammers. There's both.
I hear a lot of that, because most of the people that come to us have already worked with a lot of other agencies, and there's the one thing that I tell, like they come to me, for example, they're like, oh, they charge us a bunch of money to run our ads, and it didn't work, and I'm like, how long did you guys do it? And they're like 2.5 months, and I'm like, there's like, marketing is not like a magic wand that you just go out and like wave around and like poof, you have 100 million customers. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of things, and like sometimes it's like some people don't know what they're doing, but a lot of times people just give up too quick. Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's not the agency's problem or their fault, right? And so like there's responsibilities on both ends. Like the person who's providing the service has to take accountability for if the service is not working and give you like a clear reason why. And even if it's not working, but they have a plan to fix it, then like now it's up to you whether you want to take that plan or not. But what happens is like if you say no, I don't want to do it, even after them trying to fix it and make the situation right, and you're going to start with another one, then you're going to spend onboarding time and start all over. Yeah. So it's like it's going to happen again. You just have to be able to stick with, hopefully you have the right horse that is going to get you there. Yeah. But just stick with it and try to like not give up too early.
Well, and I think and this is just me, I'm going to toot your horn a little bit. I remember the first conversation I was a part of, you even told Josh, like, look, because Josh like, well, what about ads? And you're like, we don't do ads. Like, that's not the direction to go at first for you. Some people, yes, but you need to go in this direction. And I think finding the kind of person that will tell you, you're willing to put off that ad revenue for later on because you're like, you need to build up your social media presence first.
Yeah.
And I think finding someone like you that actually takes the time to learn about the business and all that is what is going to make a difference.
See, that's the thing. And some like high experts out there might disagree with me in this sense, right? But there is really no like clear roadmap of how you should do what you should do as per each business, right? There are things that are going to be more efficient or that are definitely going to work for that industry or whatever. But every single business has like the different stages and their own unique constraints, and every single founder has like certain things that he has to have done in order to get that business. And so whether they're like financial constraints or whether they're like mindset constraints, whatever it is, like you have to craft the strategy for each business, even if they're in the same industry. And so like what I tell everyone is like, look, nowadays things are so much more competitive, and like marketing agencies normally want you to do ads quicker because they want to look good. They want to show you a quick win. Like I can bring you customers with ads, like 100%. But what happens is like the landscape is not the same thing that it was 10 years ago, where like people just click on the ad and go, and like all of a sudden they convert it. Now people go on your socials, they see all the stuff, and what happens is like you still get customers, you still get an ROI, but like your marketing dollars shrink because a lot of that you're not converting if you don't have a solid foundation with your organic channels, right?
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, I almost deter people from working with me. It's like, hey, if you don't have at least like 12 months worth of patient, like please don't sign this. Like don't come work with me. Like I don't, I have, like thankfully I have the ability to do that because, at least for me, my livelihood is not like taking your money with the marketing agency. For me, this is kind of like a passion project that also happens to be a profitable business because, like, if I help you make a bunch of money, you're going to want to pay me a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But, like, I don't have, my incentive is not to sell you my biggest package. My incentive is not to just take as much money as I can from you. My incentive is truly just get you where, like, just close the gap between where you are, where you want to be as fast as possible without, like, just getting as much money as I can out of you.
Yeah, and that's the other thing excuse me, he touched on that a little bit of it, but is that you could have easily been like, okay, we need to do SEO, then we need to do the ads, then we need to do this, then we got to throw in this, and then also don't forget about Google My Business, and I got to throw that. There's so much in the digital space that you could have just been, here, tech of the bill, but no, you're like, all right, let's approach this because you obviously know, financially constraints that I've got. We had the open, honest conversation, and you're not trying to just take every dollar from me. You're trying to build up what I can do with what I got.
And it's also about building the foundation too.
Yeah, building the foundation for what I didn't have established on like the social media presence as much as I should have, but also, again, it goes back to your character. And finding the right business, whatever industry, whatever you're working with, whether it's not digital or anything, finding whoever your partners are and whatever that looks like, finding people that are actually good character people that are not just out to just try to rake you over the coals or anything like that. To me, that's huge, So, I always appreciate that. Excuse me, my voice. I need a drink. But yeah, so that's something obviously, and that goes with all partnerships. Like I said, you're not my only outsourced partnership I have. In our industry, a lot, you have probably some stuff you outsource, I'm assuming. And I think we've had that conversation. Yeah. And I'm sure you're not just outsourcing that stuff to just anybody. Mm-hmm. You have that personal relationship, that trust, and everything that you have built with them that has helped you to be able to do that.
Yeah, and once you touch on that, is like having the relationships with people is what is gonna, at least in my opinion, gonna solidify your business, the success of your business. Because I always like to make this analogy, right? Like, before I go into the analogy, I'll say this one thing. It's like the way I look at things and I measure things in business is resources, right? And so, like, for example, with our agency, sometimes we see that the business might not be ready for certain things or whatnot, but we have a big team and we have sometimes overflow of resources. So instead of just saying like, hey, you need this, I'm gonna charge you for that also, I'm just like, hey, we could do this. Like, I know it's not included, but we have the extra resource, so here it is, and people appreciate it. Yeah. So instead of like going above and beyond and just being, instead of being transactional, if you are relational with people and you truly care and you see like, okay, here's the pain, how can I like try to help like fix that pain or get rid of that pain without like the need for me benefiting from it, it's something that goes like, way above and beyond for people. It's something that like they really appreciate, right? And so like that's my main thing, is just like being relational and not transactional. And
Yep.
here's the thing. We have the ability to do that. There are other companies that, of course, they don't have the resources, they don't have like the manpower, all that stuff. So even if they wanted to, they might not be able to provide that. They're like, okay, this is the scope of work, this is what we're doing, and that's it type thing, But for me, the way I look at things is like, I wish we went back to like the Stone era. Because like then we wouldn't be convinced that these like little pieces of paper have so much value, and we could just barter, we could just transact in a different way, right? Like if there was like an apocalypse tomorrow, like having like a stack of cash is not gonna help you any, right?
Nope.
Keep you warm for a couple of days, maybe.
Correct. But like what's going to help you is having those relationships with those people that are in your corner that will have you back because you have planted the seeds and you've gone above and beyond without the need of getting anything in return.
Yep.
Right. So that's like the biggest thing for me, and just being honest and true is like, okay, like this is what we'll do. This is what we'll try to do. If it doesn't work, we'll try again. But like not like just overpromise to get the business. Like I learned that I'm still somewhat young, so there's like I have at least like 30-40 years hopefully in business, and so because of that, like just gotta play the long game, and weigh and reap the benefits of all the seeds that we're planting, and that's what we're trying to do now here. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I think you touched on a good point that I think is a good, I guess, way to end this is, the relationship side of things and how key that truly is in business. And, even going back to your sales background, I'm sure that plays a big factor in even just your ability to create those relationships, because that's a huge part of sales. And it's helped you kind of be, where you're at in life right now in your business and everything like that. But no, I think that's the best way to, kind of good end cap on this episode. One thing, if you want to give a little shout out to your podcast as well.
Yes. So A Badass Life. Main thing is like basically we try to empower people to start, crafting their ideal life, start living their own badass life, whatever that looks like for them. So, it means different things for different people. And for me, like the true definition of that is just like be true to yourself, be honest to yourself, know what you want, and give it 110% effort towards that. And, that's that.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
Well, check out the podcast, A Badass Life on YouTube. Also, if you need any digital marketing help or you want to do a podcast as well, I'm sure he'd be happy to host you here. Media Minds, look him up. We love working with them. We personally work with them. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment on anything that you like, or if you got any other things to add, we'd love to have a little talk with you. Just throw a little comment in there, and until next time.
It's time to step up, yeah, it's grind time, no more letting up, no, running faster, further, no more running up, yeah, giving my all, no more giving up, listen to me, step, it's time to step it up, yeah, it's time to step it up, step, it's time to step it up, yeah, it's time to step it up, it's time to step up.